Hi there, my name is Brian Grant and you are watching another PSU Intermediate Excel video. In this video we're going to be looking at operators. Most of these you already knew before, long before you ever touched Excel, and most of the big ones that you wouldn't have already known we've already gone over in previous videos in an unofficial capacity, so I'm going to be burning through this fairly quick. But there are one or two things in here that are useful and you should remember, so I will point those out at the end, and I will try and go through this pretty quickly so we can move on to more interesting stuff. Okay, so what is an operator? Well, we've already looked at functions, and functions, they look like this. There's a function name, there's the parentheses, and you put the arguments inside the parentheses separated by a comma. So it does a bunch of thinking, it comes up with an answer, and then this whole thing turns into the answer at the end. So that's a function. Operators work a little differently. Operators actually pull values. You don't put values into an operator, they pull them from either side of it. So if this is an operator, it's going to pull values, be they number or text or booleans. It's going to pull them from either side. It's going to pull them into the operator, do a bunch of thinking, engage in some process, come up with an answer, and all three of these things are going to turn into that answer. Some operators don't pull two operands in. They only pull one operand in from the left side. Others only pull one operand in from the right side, but they always turn into some resulting value. And this maybe sounds kind of hard, but you've been using these guys forever. Some of these might look familiar to you. These guys here, they look familiar to you. I certainly hope they do. And this is not a trick. These are the math operators. You've been using these your whole life, and this is I wouldn't say this is as complicated as this video gets, but it doesn't get much more complicated than this. So this is the addition operator. It's going to pull in the number 2, it's going to pull in the number 3, it's going to add those together, it's going to come up with the answer of 5, and this whole thing is going to turn into the number 5. So if I go, say, over here, I equals 2 plus 3, I'm going to hit Control Enter. I'm going to go up to Formula, go to our Evaluate Formula, or our Formula Evaluator, so we can watch it being done. So the next step is the operator plus is going to pull in the 2, the 3, add them together, and turn into a 5, because that's the answer. Yeah, that's it. Subtraction works the same way. It pulls in the 3 and the 2, it subtracts the 3 from the 2, and it turns into the answer of -1. This star or asterisk is how you write multiplication in Excel. You've probably seen that before, but if not, that's how you do it. This / is how you write division in Excel. It says divide 2 by 3, and the whole thing turns into the answer. This is the exponent operator. This takes this number here to the left, and it raises it to the power of the number on the right. So those are pretty obvious. You probably already knew those. The percent operator, maybe you wouldn't have guessed. This is an operator in Excel. So if I do 2%, the percent's going to pull the number 2 in. It's going to divide it by 100 and then turn into the answer. So if I go equals 2%, and I highlight it, and I hit F9 to evaluate the highlighted section, what I'll get is 2 divided by 100, which is the same thing as 2%. Okay. This is, even though it's the same symbol as subtraction, this is the negation operator. So if I do like equals 2 plus -3, well, the way this actually works is this operator here is going to take the number 3, positive 3, and make it negative. So that's what's meant by the negation operator. Or maybe a better example would be let's do parentheses 3 plus 2. So here this guy in the middle, this addition operator, is going to add these two together and come up with the number 5, and then the negation operator is going to take whatever value comes from inside these parentheses and make that negative. By the way, if you do the negation operator twice, it will make it negative and then make it positive again. That seems silly, but it's actually going to come in handy later on. Don't worry about remembering it. I will point it out when I need to. So that's easy. Let's go over to the text operators. Well, there's only one, and you've already seen it. So it's this ampersand, or the join, or the concatenate operator, or the glue stick operator, if you like that. It takes text strings on either side of it, and it sort of puts them together. So it takes this text string, takes this text string, and it comes up with a new text string that is the first one and then the second one combined. So if I do equals this, ampersand this, it's going to take these 3 text strings and create a new text string that is all of them together. If I hit enter, I get that. The thing to remember with the join operator, or the glue stick operator, or the concatenate operator, whatever you want to call it, it's the same thing. It's this little, what is that, shift 7, that's how you get to it. You want to make sure to include spaces. If you don't, you will end up with an answer that looks like this. If I hit enter, well, that is probably not what I want, because this text string doesn't have any spaces on the end of it, and this text string doesn't have any spaces in the beginning of it. So when I put them both together, it doesn't automatically add a space for me. I have to remember to do that manually, and I can do that by doing open quotation, space, close quotation, and then another ampersand. And I come over here and do it again. Open quotation, space, close quotation, ampersand. And now I should get the answer that I want. Don't forget your spaces. Or if you do, go back and put them in, like that. It's easy. The logical operators, I think we looked at some of these in the last video. The big ones you probably remember from math a long time ago. This is the equals operator. It takes these two numbers and it looks at them and says, are they the same? If they're the same, the whole thing is going to turn into true. If they're not the same, the whole thing is going to turn into false. This is the less than operator, this guy right here. This takes these two numbers and it asks, is the number 1 less than the number 2? If the answer is true, or yes, the whole thing will turn into a true. If the answer is no or false, the whole thing will turn into a false. This is the greater than operators, same deal there. These two guys, you probably know how to use them, but you probably may not know how to write them. So this is the less than or equal to operator. So this takes the number 1 and the number 2, and it asks, is the number 1 less than or equal to the number 2? So it could be either of those things. So if the number 1 is equal to the number 2, the answer is true. If the number 1 is less than the number 2, the answer is true. And this is how you write it. You write it just like you say it, less than or equal to. And this one is the same thing but greater than, so it says, hey, is this number 1, is it greater than or equal to number 2? Returning a true or a false depending on if the answer is yes or no. Here's another one that you might have sort of guessed how to write these. You might have just tried one or two things and come up with these and found out, oh yeah, that works just fine. This one you might not guess on your own. This is the does not equal operator. Sometimes you'll see, in math books, you'll see like an equal sign with a slash through it. That means does not equal. Well, if you look on your keyboard, there's no button for that, so you can't use that. In some places you'll see something like exclamation mark equals, and that means does not equal. But in the world of Excel, does not equal is written like this. This is the does not equal operator. So you've got your carets right above your space bar, and you just write the less than and then greater than, and that means does number 1 not equal the number 2? So if these are the same number, the answer is false, and if these are different numbers, the answer is true. Easy. Okay, those logic operators, you can actually use those on text strings as well. You don't need to feed them numbers. If you use two text strings, what it's going to do is it's going to ask the question, like for instance here, is A greater than B? It's going to ask if the number A would appear lower on an alphabetized list than the number B. And maybe that doesn't make sense. So if we go over here, here's an alphabetized list, right? If you were to just sort something alphabetically, like if you were to go to the library and look at like an alphabetized list, it might look something like this. And so the lower than this is on the list, the greater its implied value is. So BAA is greater than AAC, and AAB is greater than AAA. So is A greater than B? Well, no. The answer is no. It's false, because this would appear lower on an alphabetized list. Is A less than B? The answer is true, because this would appear lower on an alphabetized list. Strangely enough, these comparative operators with text are not case sensitive. So if I ask the question, does capital A, capital A, capital A equal lowercase a, lowercase a, lowercase a, you would think the answer is false, but the answer is actually true. If you want to do a comparison that is case sensitive, you can use the exact operator, which it takes two text strings as arguments, and it says, are they exactly the same? And it is case sensitive. Okay, let's go over to ranges. This one we've used a million times before. This is the this is the draw a rectangle or create a dimensional range operator. So if I do equals this colon this. There we go. We get it's going to take the range F9. It's going to take the range I14. It's going to suck them into the colon there, and it's gonna produce a range that is the rectangle, I guess, of both of those ranges. So it's the range that you would get if you were to draw a rectangle starting at this top left corner and going all the way down to this bottom right corner. So this is indeed another example of an operator. I'm going to hit enter. Oop. And I've once again managed, because I'm going through these videos so fast, I will forget sometimes to wrap these things in functions. So if I hit enter, I get 24. So this is 6 times 4. Okay, that's easy. These other two, you will. This is probably the first and last time you will ever see them or use them. But what the heck? We're here going through these things one by one. Why don't I show them to you? If you put a space between two operators, or between two ranges, I should say, that's actually the union operator, or just the overlapping cells operator. So if I do equals sum, I'm going to do that right there, and I'm going to do space, and left click drag that there. Let's see, close parentheses. Because I've got that space there, the space is going to take this range, it's going to take this range, and it's only going to return, a new range that only has the cells that are in both ranges, which is to say this cell right here, right? Because this is where they overlap. So the sum of this guy is only 1, because the only cell that appears in both ranges is this guy right here. That's what the space does between two ranges. You'll probably never use that, but you know, what the heck? Now you know it. Now you know it. Here's another one that you'll use even less often. So if you use this one basically never, you'll use this one even more basically never. This is the disconnected range operator, and what it does is it allows you to create a range that is sort of disconnected or arbitrary. I actually had to think kind of hard of an example of where you might use this, and I came up with one. So let's say I've got these two sets of numbers. I don't know what these are. This is the number of joggers across a bridge. This is the number of maybe these are hours, right? So this is a very busy bridge. Maybe this is in downtown. Maybe this is like the Hawthorne or something. So for the first hour there's 256 joggers. The second hour there's 235 joggers, and so on and so forth. And then on day 2 you've also got the joggers. And say you want the hour with the second largest number of joggers. Well, if you didn't want the second largest, you wanted the first largest, this would be easy. You would go equals max, select that guy, comma, select that guy. And in this instance, the comma is used in the function to separate arguments. So this F20 to F25 is the first argument. See number 1, see how that's a darker hue there. And this guy, I click on it, and this is the second argument, right? So that's easy, that works fine. If you just wanted to know the largest number in both of these sets, you just hit enter, and there you go. The largest number is 256. But let's say you wanted not the largest, but the second largest. So we're going to use the large function, which works better when you spell it correctly. And the large function takes 2 arguments, the first of which is an array, and the second one, this k here, that says, hey, what largest number would you like? So if I do, let's see, let's select this, comma 2. This is going to find the second largest number in this range right here. And if I were to change this 2 to a 1, it would find the first largest. If I were to change this to a 5, it would find the fifth largest, and it goes on like that. But if I want the, let's change this back to 2, the second largest number in this list and this list, well, there's no good way to do that, because if I put a comma and select this, well, now I've essentially given it, here, let me move this guy out of the way. I've essentially given it 3 arguments, and it's not quite sure what this is. It's thinking that this is k, which is which largest number would you like, and so it's going to get confused. But I'm going to hit backspace there. If I enclose the whole thing in parentheses, right? I enclose the whole thing in parentheses, and here I'm going to do comma. Now, what I've actually done is this whole region right there, is actually going to, this comma is not separating arguments. It's actually going to create a new range based on this collection of cells and this collection of cells. It's going to put them together. Even though they don't touch, it will sort of combine them. And by putting it in the parentheses, that will make it work. So if I hit enter, I get 251, which is apparently the second largest number in both of these lists. I don't know. Actually, you might use that sometime. It might save you a couple steps, but if you want to go ahead and forget that one, no biggie. You'll probably never need that one. Okay, so now that we've gone through these guys, what do you actually need to take away from this video that you probably didn't know going into this video? Well, there's sort of four big things. Here's three of them. The first is, this is how you write less than or equal to in a formula. You put the less than symbol and then the equals symbol just next to each other. Don't put a space in between them. If you do this, put a space in there, it won't work. This is how you write greater than or equal to. This is how you write is not equal to. This one is a little harder to sort of guess your way into. These ones you might guess your way into. This one, I don't know if you have to write it down, but you might want to practice it once or twice just to get used to it. You will use this one a lot. So those are the three of the four big ones. The fourth big one is that when you use comparative operators on text, the lower the text would appear in an alphabetized list, the greater its value is considered. So if I've got these text strings here, gecko is greater than fish, and fish is greater than dog, and dog is greater than cat. It's not because the animals are greater, it's because the way it appears lower on an alphabetized list. So if I do equals, is gecko greater than fish, I get the answer true. And if I switch this to, oh, made a mistake there, I should get the answer false. Okay, well, I think that's a good look at the operators. We've actually gone through all of them in Excel, so that was good. That was quick. In the next video, we're going to look at a very special property of the math and text operators that you're going to end up using all the time later on in your Excel career. It should be, well, I don't know if it should be interesting. So, once again, thank you for watching. Do stay tuned, and I will see you next video.